Hey everyone, how are you? This is Rajin Ramdeholl, and today we have another Realtor Spotlight. Now, today's a special day because I have with me someone who is a real estate agent, an MC, a TV host, a radio host. I could go on and on and on, but we're going to focus on real estate today. So with me, I have the pleasure of being with Deonarine.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
Finally, the day's happening. I'm great because I've been admiring your work through Instagram. That's where I've been seeing you pop up, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm great.
Awesome. And fortunately for you, which might be very different, you're used to kind of doing the interviews.
Yes.
I get to do the interview today, and I get to ask the questions,
Yes.
and you get to be in the hot seat. So today we're going to be focusing obviously on real estate because many people might not know that's a really big part of your career and the things that you enjoy doing. And we want to let everyone know more about you because I think it's really important for people that are looking for an agent that is dedicated, that is trustworthy, that is really going to look out for their best intentions, that they can see who that person is.
Yes.
So today I want to just ask a few questions, and let's start just from the basics, right? Talk a little bit about what got you into real estate, and as a realtor, some of the things that you feel are important that people get to know about you. So let's start first. What brought you into the world of real estate?
Sure. So I'm originally from Trinidad. I migrated to Trinidad and Tobago. I migrated to Queens, New York in the 90s, been living here ever since. And my mom, who happened to be here today, I was working at her friend's construction company, and we built one of the real estate tycoons' home in Queens. That company went out of business, and I started working for Century 21, the company he owned, for a year. And then at age 19, I went to Remax. I worked there for 5 years, but as admin. That's where I fell in love with real estate. Working behind the desk, seeing the agents really go in and out, manage their schedules, change the life of these clienteles that were coming in. And I said to myself, real estate is what I want to do. So at a young age, I realized this is where I want to be.
You said at about 19, you were exposed to just being in the real estate environment and around that. And you got to see firsthand just how the whole thing operated, right?
So I was working in real estate behind a desk when it was the height of the market in early 2000s. That company had 60 agents.
Wow.
So we always needed 3 agents at the front. And the phones was constantly ringing. It was busy. And being behind a desk, but seeing the agents come and go when they want, that's also what really made me fall in love with real estate. And then I have to say, working behind a desk and becoming an agent is totally two different.
Absolutely. Yes. Because now you're on the front line, right?
Yes.
Like you said, when you're behind the desk, that responsibility kind of stops at a certain point. When you're now on that front line, you realize that responsibility that's there, right? Because now this is someone's life. This is someone that's going to make the biggest purchase in their life, number one. Number two, especially being where, you said you were working, there is a lot of immigrants that are migrating here, and that's their first thing of what the American dream is, right? So you now are responsible for that. No pressure.
No pressure. It is one of their most biggest transactions, whether it's selling a home, whether it's purchasing a home. And as a real estate agent, you take a silent oath to be ethical, to represent your client, take your emotions, take your needs, take your personal interests out of that. And behind the front desk, basically what I had to do was manage the day-to-day, set appointments. Now you're managing someone's biggest asset.
That's right.
So the responsibility is endless. It's much larger than being the admin coming into the real estate world. So I do take it very seriously.
Good. Now, with that being said too, I do want to know, and I'm sure the people are looking at there want to know, what would you say is one of the highlights or maybe a specific transaction that when you think back about your career just comes to mind and makes you feel like, you know what, you made that right choice of being in real estate? Like, what's one of those times or moments or stories that you can share?
Yeah, so right off the bat, one's coming to mind. I've been working with this family, the Gafar family, and they have been entrusting me with their real estate transaction. I listed their home. I sold them a home in Bayshore, and they just keep sending their family members to me. And one of the highlights is I just celebrated Eid with the family, and I texted Miss Rose. Her name happened to be Rose, and I said, "Thank you so much for inviting me." And it was the home that I sold them in. Yeah. And she said to me, "Rose, your family." She said, "You know what? No, now you're my daughter."
Oh, wow.
And just having that strong bond and relationship, when you walk away from a transaction, when it's closed, the relationship does not end there. You continue the relationship, and it makes it all worth it because, as you know, 80% of real estate agents fail. It is a tough business. If you get into it for the right reasons, when you feel like giving up, you just remember why you're here. And if the passion is so immense, you stay.
And I think you said something that's important there, right? Too often people look at it as just a transactional type of thing, meaning that I just want to get someone into a house because of the financial gain. And so it just becomes more of, instead of looking for that person and their family and having your heart into actually helping them, it's more of, well, it's just a transaction and there's not that care that's there. And I feel that's maybe, at least from my point of view, why there are so many people that fail, because if you truly love what you do, it's not about, well, hey, I have to make this amount of money. I have to close this amount of transactions. I have to do this. It's, I'm doing this, and whatever comes out of it, that's okay because I have a joy of what I do.
Exactly. So, of course, as human beings, we do have our goals, our expectations. We have our brokers who are saying, well, at the end of the year, we want you to accomplish a certain amount. That's great. Also, it is a big life decision. So when you're dealing with a clientele, you deal with them on a human-to-human basis, and you come from a point of, okay, I understand I'm working for you, not for me. So really, the humanistic approach is always the way to lead.
Good. Well, now we talked about something that was positive and a positive highlight.
Yes.
Could we know maybe something that comes to mind when you think about maybe a negative highlight, or something that just, you remember that you just didn't like, or was a bad, situation that happened? I mean, let's hear that side of it now.
Gosh.
A lot of people don't like to talk about the bad side of things, right? So let's hear maybe a story about that.
I have a lot of those. I do have a lot. When we deal with humans, we deal with different personalities.
Yes.
I remember this one particular transaction. The day I got the listing, the homeowner drove over to her sister's house knowing I was there and starts talking, like opens the door and starts talking about commission. And from the moment she stormed in, after we had the paperwork signed, I should have known that would have been a tumultuous relationship. I said I let it pass. However, during the course of the period that we were working together, it was tough dealing with her. And we had the property in contract. It was in contract. Then the buyer decided that he no longer want the property. He was able to get his down payment back. And it was just the amount of work that I put into it, to the point where I was driving, delivering documents. And I had someone from the Department of Buildings working on an open permit she had. Like, I would say a combination of 3 years worth of work.
Wow.
And she just wasn't getting the number that she wanted. We know how sometimes home sellers can be. And she just got frustrated and ended up listing it with another agent. And I actually had a buyer, gave them a full price offer. The agent came, had an open house, sold it in one weekend, and did deny my offer. So one of the negative aspects about real estate is the reality of real estate.
Yes.
You don't get paid until the closing date. And so you can work for 3 years.
Yeah.
Running your own gas, your mileage, your time, your effort, running ads to promote that property, going to open houses. And you lose all of that time that we can never get back. I wish we had a time machine. And the hard work that we put in to see someone, to be someone grateful, that's hard.
It's funny you talk about that, because I think all too often we get to see the glitz and glamour, right, of the real estate world. oh, this just closed, you know, $1 million listings and all these great highlights. And so like we talked about just now, you have everyone that thinks, oh, wow, like it's just these big commissions and I'm just going to close deals and I'm going to close 100 transactions my first year. And they get into real estate and they hit that brick wall, realizing like, yeah, you have to put in work and spend money and do all of these things before you even close a transaction. And so, you know, it's, I think, really important that you highlighted that, which is funny enough, was one of the questions I was going to ask you is, you know, what would you suggest to maybe newer agents that are getting into the industry? Like, what is something that you think they should know about? And you want to just kind of...
Sure. I was once a new agent, so I have plenty of information to share. I would start out by saying, get into real estate for the right reasons. If you get into real estate saying, you know what, I want to sell one house a year and just make extra money, sometimes you would have to work a long time in order to close that transaction, and it becomes very frustrating. Another important factor is invest in a real estate coach. I had a real estate coach by the name of Marco Lapadora, and I truly, truly gained a lot of knowledge from him. So get that guidance. Don't be afraid to spend that money and invest in your business, and always continue learning.
Yes.
And be ethical.
Yes. Yeah. And I like that last part about being ethical, because it is definitely an industry where sometimes you feel like you need to push the boundaries and push the lines because it is very competitive, right? And so
extremely competitive.
You kind of want to maybe get that transaction over someone else. And so you might do something that is unethical. And I think all too often people regret that at the end. But if you do things the right way, and I think it comes back out at the end, right? If you do business the correct way, you treat people right, you do things on the up and up, it will come back to all benefit you.
Building healthy relationships is a way to sort of hone into getting those referrals. But you're doing it, as you mentioned, out of the goodness of your heart. If you do the right thing, you have karma.
Yes.
Karma is going to come back to you. So I do believe in doing the right thing.
Now, let's ask you this question as well. So we talked about advice for new agents. We talked a little bit about, you know, you in the industry. With all the agents that are out there right now, what do you think separates you? What would you say separates you from every other agent out there, and that you would like people to know about you?
Sure, that's a great question. I believe what separates me is the way I serve my clients and the way I communicate with my clients. I understand that every family have different criterias. And when I sit down with a family member, whether it's to sell your house, whether it's to purchase your house, I listen to what you have to say and your criteria, and I work with it from there. Also, patience. I understand it is a big life decision. There's no rush. At the same time, I'm here to advise you. Real estate agents are advisors. I'm here to advise you, and you would be able to be informed of the pros and cons of possibly waiting. I think patience is a very big key. Sometimes, like I just had a closing yesterday, thank God it closed in 30 days, but that's not all for every transaction.
Right.
You know, so sometimes it could take 3 months, 5 months. Last year, I sold one of my great friends' home, Vera. She had to get her family in time for the school to reopen in Connecticut. And we were like just holding on by a thread. So I would say, while they're frustrated and you're that person they're coming to, understand where those emotions are coming from, and don't take it personal. I remember I have a client who always say to me, Rose, I lost my cool with you, but I understood that he is the breadwinner of his family. And when his wife and his 2 sons are looking towards him to like get a roof over their head, it's okay, you could take it out on me because I know it's not personal. So patience is a key component.
And I think you said something that also is very important, right? You listen. Because it's their need. It's what they are looking for.
Yes.
Yes, you are the expert, and it's important for you to listen to what their needs are and to guide them. But I think all too often people don't, in terms of agents, understand that sometimes it's good to use these.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
Because that's how you're able to help your clients out and meet what their expectations are. So all too often it's, well, I'm the expert. This is what I say. This is what you should list it for. This is what this, blah, 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 blah. And then the client walks away feeling frustrated because they really haven't gotten anything of what they really want, right? Same thing with, let's say, buyers that are looking for a property. All too often I hear, well, you know what? I might want to work with another agent because I feel like my agent doesn't listen to my needs.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And they'll show me properties that is not what I'm looking for. So I think that's really important. Part of what, like you said, separates you is your dedication to your clients, your ability to listen to them, and your patience in working with them. Because I think for all of us, if we've bought a house, we know what it's like to be on that other side.
Yes.
Where it is to be in that client's position of, we deal with the frustrations. We have our own personal things going on, and we want someone that will actually just help us through that process.
Yeah, we're problem solvers.
Yes.
We're expert advisors, and we are here to guide you through the process, not push you, but also to understand it is emotional as well. And a quick story, I once had a buyer during the consultation. They said to me, we almost purchased a home, but when we found out that the agent wanted us to sign the contract and the payment was going to be X amount, which is like $2,000 over a budget, we couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. So as a real estate professional, it's not just about going to closing and getting that paycheck. It's about understanding what your clients can afford, and later down the line, you don't want them to be in foreclosure or being any sort of hardship because you wanted to make a deal. So ultimately, I was able to sell them a home, and they're much comfortable. He became a father now in that home. So it's a happy ending.
And I would say the referral now is going to come from someone like that.
Oh,
because
yeah.
when they think about Rose, they're going to say, you know what? Rose just didn't care about a commission and care to push us into a property. She understood what our needs were. And if that property wasn't the right one because of the payment, she didn't try to convince me why I should continue to go through with that. She said, okay, we'll look at something else. We'll find something in your budget.
Exactly.
And that's also, I think, very important. What a lot of people don't realize, that in order to have success in an industry like this, referrals are key. I had done a video and I talked about one of the things that I learned back in, the housing collapse of '08, and what helped me through my career are referrals. I mean, I have clients just this week. I got a phone call from someone that I did her mortgage maybe 17, 18 years ago. And now they want to do some other financial transaction. And she's like, Rajin, you're the guy.
Yes.
Before I do anything, I'm going to reach out to you. But that feels great to know that someone still has my contact information in their phone from 17 or 18 years ago, right? And so that's, I think, very important for people to understand, especially agents, and of course, any potential buyers that are looking at this, is that it's not just about the glitz and glamour that you might see in on social media. And, you might think, well, because I see this person posting, they closed this transaction, closed that transaction, they did all these different things, that's the best person to go to, because at the end of the day, they might not be in tune to what your needs are. Correct. So I think that was a great highlight that you mentioned there in terms of, a story and not pushing someone into a transaction.
Oh, quick thing. It's great that you're in business 18 years in the future. That's great. I mean, your number still worked and you're still in the business.
Oh, yes. I have not changed my number, I think, in over like 20 something years. So fortunately, my clients are able to still get in touch with me, and of course that I can still, service them. Now, areas that you service.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I spend most of my life in Queens, New York. So absolutely Queens, Brooklyn, Nassau. I just sold a home in West Babylon, and I'll go to Suffolk like today if I have to. I always tell everyone, I drive a hybrid.
Yes.
If you're committed to me, I'll be committed to you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Rose, anything else that you would like everyone out there to know more about you, or just, that you think is important? Anything you want to stress out there, like maybe your thoughts on the market? Obviously, there are a lot of people that are questioning right now. Should I buy? Are interest rates too high? Should I wait? What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. If you feel like you're ready to make that move and purchase a home or sell your home, speak with an expert. Too often, I find that we have buyers and sellers speaking with probably their neighbors or their family members, which is great. We value their opinion. But when you have someone like you and I who are in it every single day, for example, yourself, if a buyer's coming to you, you're running their debt, their income.
Yes.
You're looking at their credit score. You're able to let them know what they can afford as opposed to probably staying in that 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment. Now, they might realize, because rent in New York is pretty high.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that payment they're making in their rental, they might be able to afford a home. So speaking to an expert is vital. And then you can make that decision if you're ready. If you're not ready, give it a year. Maybe you want to save. Maybe you love the area. Maybe you're going to get a transfer from work. So right now where you're renting, it's probably comfortable for you to travel.
Yeah.
But once you're ready, speak with the expert, because every scenario is different. What your neighbor got for his home would be different.
That's right.
So
That's right.
definitely.
And it's funny you say that because, I have conversations with people all the time and they're like, well, I think I'm going to wait. And they'll give you a reason, right? Like, I think I'm going to wait because I want to see when interest rates go back down. Or I'm going to wait because I think I want to wait until home prices go back down. Or I'm going to wait and whatever reason maybe, I might save up more money. But you see, I think they don't think about the other parts of it, right? They're looking at it from their side of it. Well, I want to do it because of this. But what does the market say? What is happening in the market? So for instance, when let's use, during the COVID time, a lot of people didn't buy because their thing was, well, home prices were high. And I remember speaking to clients, even though rates were low, people are like, oh my God, I have to pay $20,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 higher in a price. I don't want to do that because I'm overpaying for a home. But guess what happened? Rates were low. People didn't want to buy. Prices were at certain points. Then they realized, well, the prices are going higher and they're going higher and they're going higher. So now they were like, well, I want to buy, but the price is too high. And then they jumped into the market and then they couldn't decide because then when interest rates went up, they thought that, well, now I'm overpaying again. And the point I'm trying to make about all that is we wait and we wait and we wait and opportunity passes and passes and passes. But I think because all too often people are looking at that 2008 time period as I want to wait for them to buy again. And they don't understand that that is not a market that's going to happen again.
Yeah. So what I want to say to that is that those folks who got the lower interest rate, obviously you have to remember they were waiving the appraisal contingency. They were also purchasing home 50, 60, 70,000 over asking. So if you waive the appraisal contingency and, for example, you purchase a home for 670, but the appraisal came in at 600, you're still purchasing that home because it's in the contract while you're getting that low interest rate. The difference between back then and now is that you have less competition. Sellers do want to sell. They have their goal, their expectation. You are up against less buyers, so the bidding war is a little lowered. And you might be focused on the interest rate. And I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but a lot of people are too obsessed with the interest rate. How about you look at your payment?
Right.
Sit down with the professional, Rajin, work out your numbers. And if you're comfortable with that payment, go home shopping, make that purchase.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
And that's really important too, because I personally, and this is my belief, if there's a need now, don't look at, oh my goodness, I'm going to be paying this, let me wait. Because look at where the future is. If that home price still continues to go up because you waited a year from now and the interest rate came down 0.5%, you're still going to be paying more. So what I tell people is, as you mentioned, you do have an opportunity now where you might not have to overbid on a property. You're getting it at the actual price of the home, maybe even a little bit below. I say to people, that's a discount, right? Because if you were paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a home a year before, being able to pay at asking price is a discount. You buy now, you know that, okay, here's the thing. This is going to be the height of where my payment is. So I might have to sacrifice a little bit for a couple months or a year or so, but we understand that the market is moving in a direction where at some point the Feds are going to stop raising interest rates, and they're planning on lowering rates almost as quickly as they increased it. So if you know in a year or a year and a half, interest rates are going to be back down to a place where you, let's say at 4% or 4.5%, that's going to save you hundreds of dollars off your payment. So now you already secured the property. you already are building equity, and now you have the opportunity to lower your interest rate.
Correct.
So to me, it's a win-win versus what we see, and you mentioned it in terms of rent. Rent just continues to keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. And I have clients that don't realize that they've been renting for 10 years, 15 years. And when you calculate all that money that they've spent in rent for those times, you can buy a house, maybe 2 houses with that amount of money, right? So I tell them all the time is, don't continue to just focus on interest rates. Focus on the opportunity and what the need is now, and you can always work that out down the line.
I understand that purchasing a home could be very nerve-wracking for first-time home buyers.
Yes.
And it's nervous, and especially when you go out to family gatherings, this person is sharing their experience, that person is sharing their experience. That's why I would say, again, speak with an expert. Let them guide you. Let them give you that reassurance that you would need in order to make that next step. Here's the thing. When you purchase a home, you know what that monthly payment is. But when you're renting, that cost keeps going up and up because the landlord controls what you pay.
That's right. And I use myself and my family as an example. So my parents bought a house back in like 1987. At that time, in that specific area, that price was pretty high. And by the way, their interest rate was 13% on an adjustable rate mortgage. But they looked at it as, hey, we want a place for our kids to live and to go to school, and it was a great neighborhood. But if you were to look at that perspective and be like, well, maybe I should wait because the interest rate is high and the price is high. So they bought that property for about $120,000. Now think about throughout that period of time, how many different stages people were getting in as a buyer, right? So at some point, let's say at 1990, that house might have been worth $200,000. That person that's buying at that point would have said, hey, I'm buying at the height of the market because look at the price. It went up. But that person probably bought it at that time. You take that to 1995. Maybe that house was going for $300,000. That person that's buying might think, wow, that's a high price, but they still bought. Now keep going to where we are today when that price of that house is probably worth more than $1 million. But there's still people that are going to buy now. The point that I was trying to say is at every single point in that time period, people have always had that thought of I'm buying at the height of the market.
Yes.
But the difference is the ones that pulled the trigger and did it were able to reap the benefits of values appreciating over that time period versus the people that continue to pay rent.
Yeah, whole value appreciates every year. It's a great way to build equity, and great thing for your parents. They really saw their needs. It all comes down to needs. Like I have this buyer I'm working with, and she said to me, Rose, what do you think about the market? And then later on, she said, you know what? I have a goal. I want to get into a home by summer. So it really depends on your motivation.
Yes.
When I sit down with a seller, I could gauge how motivated they are to really sell their home.
Yes.
So it all boils down to motivation, and there's also the fear factor. I'm also working with a family right now, and there are first-time home buyers, and first-time home buyers do have a lot of questions, and I'm here to answer. So it really depends on coming back to every family. Yeah, there are different criteria,
That's right.
but
That's right.
home value appreciates.
And we've seen that throughout history. So, Rose, I definitely wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Getting to know more about your story, hearing more about, your journey in real estate. And for those of you that are looking at this, and as I mentioned, if you are out there and you are looking for an agent that you can trust, that will be patient with you, that will be understanding with you, I would really tell you to reach out to Rose. She's going to go above and beyond for you, and she's here to work for you. Right, Rose?
Absolutely. So you can follow me, my journey on Rose Deonarine. I'm on all social media platforms, and just call me. I would be happy to have a conversation with you and see if we're the right fit for each other to work with.
And also, give us your feedback. Maybe since Rose is a TV host and a radio host and everything else, maybe we can flip it over.
By the way, I want to interview you.
Maybe we'll have Rose interview me, and we'll see how that one goes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
No. I do the interviews.
I definitely want to interview you, though.
Well, again, stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and make sure you call Rose.
Yes.